Hi, I'm Nancy Reynolds. I'm Stampin' with Nutsy. I live in Bellingham, Washington, and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I want to thank you for joining me today. It's the Butterfly Brilliance Bundle Focus, and I have made a card with some of my favorite colors. I really love the new Fresh Freesia color. So that and Blackberry Bliss go together so well that I wanted to show you the card I made. It has a layer that is stamped and embossed, and then the lovely butterflies colored with blends, and then inside a little butterfly. So let me show you how I put this together. First thing is, you'll see butterflies all over my desk. Aren't they pretty? I like butterflies. My card base is Whisper White. No, it's not. It's basic white. It's the thick cardstock, the thick white. It's 4 1/4 by 11 inches. It's got a top tent fold, 10.5 centimeters by 29.7 centimeters, scored in half, which would be 5.5 inches or about 14.9 centimeters. So we'll set that aside. Layer number 1 is Blackberry Bliss. It's 4 1/8 inches by 5 3/8 inches or 10 by 10.4 centimeters. Anyway, isn't it pretty? I have a piece of white cardstock, the same color. It's basically just a little smaller than a quarter sheet. The second layer is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches or 9.5 by 13.9 centimeters. I think that's 14.4 centimeters on this side. I knew there was something wrong with that. 14.4. There we are. That makes more sense. And this one's 13.9 by 9.5 centimeters. This piece is where I want us to start. What I did is I took my Stamparatus, and I used my Stamparatus for two things. I stamped my butterflies on a piece of white cardstock, and this is one I started on another previous video, and I put the case underneath it for stability, inked up with Memento, stamped down, made sure I transferred all my ink. But on this card, what I wanted to show you is what I did with the Fresh Freesia piece of cardstock. Let me see if I got this in the right place. Because my cardstock is smaller than my stamp, which is not a problem. I'm using the stamp as a background stamp, not as a focal piece for this card. So that looks right. There's not really enough space to put my magnet to hold it down, but I think it's going to be just fine. So let's do that first. Again, a stamp case for stability. I'm using tone-on-tone ink, so I'm using Fresh Freesia ink. And I'm just going to ink up my butterfly. This is a pretty juicy pad, so I'm being a little careful not to get too much on it. Close the pad up. I love the way our ink pads automatically, when you close them, you flip them upside down so your ink stays at the top of the pad. A really good feature. When I'm playing with my Memento ink, you need to put it the top on and then turn it upside down to keep your ink up towards the top. Now what I use, I have the little air hockey puck, and I do use that quite a lot to put pressure on my stamp, get that coverage, then I check it. Actually, I know that it doesn't get enough pressure in this area. So let me work on transferring the ink from there. Since I couldn't put, oh, that turned out nicely. Yes, that's perfect. I couldn't put the magnets on, but the one thing about the red rubber stamps, they tend not to move your base paper, so you're usually okay with that. You could always put a little bit of seal on it because you can remove seal. if you wanted to make sure it was staying in place if you didn't have room for your magnets, or you could cut a bigger piece of paper, do your stamping, and then cut it down. Lots of options. So moving the stamp apparatus out of the way, this is ready to go. Now, I don't know if you can see on this piece, but I ran this through an embossing folder. And the folder that I used is Retiring. It's the Ornate Floral 3D. Speaking of retiring, the Butterfly Brilliance bundle is being unbundled in the new catalog. So if you wanted to get the bundle and you don't already have it, now is the time to order. You have the whole month of April to order. It's you get the big background stamp, the die which cuts it apart, so you get all of these lovely individual little adorable butterflies. And as you can see, I just the other day started stamping and coloring and cutting things out, and I keep them in a little baggie. Who knows when I'll use them. And then you've got these detailed dies that cut out beautiful, just beautiful little butterflies. You can use them as layering or either standalone. I didn't use any of the detailed butterflies on this card this time, but I do want to show you what I did. So, first of all, so that's the first card I made. The second time I did one, I ran it through with an embossing folder that is continuing, the Pretty Floral embossing folder. And you can see that on this piece. I got a little carried away with myself. I started putting the card together before I showed you. So I decided that I needed to take a step back, cut another piece of paper, and show you how I stamped it. Alrighty, so we've got our piece stamped. I mounted it. Once it's been embossed, it goes on the matte layer, which is Blackberry Bliss, which was that one that was 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 inches, or 10 by 14.4 centimeters. And it's just got a very narrow border. So I used my seal. You could use your favorite adhesive to put it together. Nice little border. So that's what happened with this. And then I took my favorite ribbon in the entire catalog of all time, the mesh ribbon. I absolutely love this. It's a silver metallic mesh, and it ties beautifully. It's easy to work with. And I just wrapped it around and tied a bow before I put it down. And so that is the next step, your card base. Is to take your card base. I didn't use a lot of dimensionals. I used a couple, and I'll show you. But what I did was I took my seal, and I wanted my ribbon to have just a little more adhesion. So I just kind of tacked it with the seal right there, just so it's not going to go anywhere. Open up my base. For me, with the tent style, it's easier to do it with the card open. Just seeing if I've got a pretty good border. Looks even on the sides and top and the bottom. There we are. I didn't stamp on the inside. You'll see I just put a layer of basic white. And the reason I did that, it just gives a little more weight to the inside of the card. It kind of balances the weight front and back. So when you've got it standing, it just gives it a little more stability. Since I didn't stamp on it, I am just going to go ahead and put that down right now. Because I must say, the fewer pieces sitting around, the better. And the less trouble I get into. Now, we're practically done. We need a piece of white. And this is one I cut the butterflies out of earlier. There is my, see, even on my ribbon scissors, I put that metallic mesh ribbon because I like it so much. So I'm just going to cut off some of these because I need a little bit for my sentiment. My sentiment comes from the Very Versailles stamp set. It really is a lovely set. It is, however, being retired. Yes, see, there's the big R, retired. I used the sentiment, have a beautiful day, and I did it in the Memento Black. And as per my policy, I really prefer to make sure I've got it on straight. Yes, I did. I got the label on straight. I got it on the block straight. I did well with this one. And I'm just going to, let's see, put it right about here because I'm going to cut it out with a punch. Let me put the top on and get that out of the way before I make a mess. And you are going to, probably should have put it at the end, but the other end, but this is okay. Just line it up, put it in about the middle, trying to be straight, and punch. It's always nice to do this from, I mean, some people might try and put it in and do it this way, but then you can't see what you're doing. I like to see what I'm doing. Much, much better for me. So we have this, and we're going to put it on a scrap of, let's see, I'm going to look for a better scrap. I keep my scraps in a file folder that I've taped together on the sides. Here, this is a good one. And I keep this in a file cabinet with my paper. So when I take out a piece of Blackberry Bliss, I'll pull out that little scrap and see if I can get what I need out of the scrap. So we're going to cut the base out of our Blackberry Bliss. There we are. And that will go back in my other container very soon. A little seal. I'll put my, see if how well I do. It's not too bad. There we go. And I did use dimensionals on this. So let's, I think I used 3. One in the middle and one on each side. Dimensionals are good. Dimensional backs are messy. They get all over everywhere. I try to make sure I put them in a garbage can when I take them off. And instead of straight, I think I'm going to put it at an angle. Just for fun. Now I have lots of butterflies that I've colored. And I have one that I have not colored. Well, actually, I started coloring him. I did his body. So be sure when you're using your blends that you have a piece of paper underneath it, because it does, see, it does go through. It can go through. And I used an interesting combination. For their body, I used the bronze marker. I always try to have my color remover, color lifter, handy just in case I make a mistake. I used Cinnamon Cider, one of our retiring colors, which I thought went well with the Fresh Freesia and the Blackberry Bliss, because that's what I used was Fresh Freesia, making sure that I've got the right ones, Fresh Freesia, light and dark, dark and light, and then Blackberry Bliss, dark and light. And I just played around with colors and combinations. I think this butterfly, and I'm just going to start it. I'm going to do a little dark accent on this wing right here. And on the other side also. I did a lot of blending and playing, but I just wanted to quickly show you. So I used it's a smaller space. I wanted to have more control, so I used the end with the little thin line, which is the pen end. The brush end has a bigger end. I think I'm going to do a Blackberry Bliss. And I'm going to use the thin end, the pen end, and I am going to give just a little bit of dimension and depth to these areas that are black. The artist who created the stamps left us indicators of where darker colors go. And it usually works out pretty well when I follow along with those indicators. Not that I do it perfectly, because after all, there is such a thing as artistic expression. And the nice thing about the blends is they blend so beautifully together. Let's see. You don't have to go in the direction of the shading, although a little flicking is always nice. Makes me feel good. Oh. Okay. I think that makes me happy. And then with that, I'm going to do the light in some areas, and in other areas I'm going to do a fresh Freesia. Blends are just what they say. They are an alcohol marker, and they blend together so you don't have lines in your coloring, which makes me very happy. But they do spread, so that's why the color lifter is very handy to have on hand. Let's see. Hard for me to talk and color at the same time, so I don't think I'll do the whole. I'll do half the butterfly, because I want his bottom wings to have a little different coloring. And one of the things that sometimes on some stamps, it doesn't bother me at all to have this white edge, and sometimes it does. And the butterflies, for some reason, bother me. I did go out of the line. I don't know if you can see that, but here I made a little bit of a mess. The color lifter doesn't actually lift. It pushes the color in, down through. So here's the back. It is still a little wet, but what I did, I wanted to show you, is I have my smoky slate. Here, let me bring him up here. I have my smoky slate marker, the light smoky slate, and I just went through and I colored in and covered over those white areas. And I'm not sure why on this stamp it bothered me more than on others, but I do prefer it this way. So, this is kind of what it looks like. And I've got to tell you that I might go through and add something a little special. I believe that butterflies should sparkle. And so my Wink of Stella and I got together and decided to sparkle the butterflies. So they have all been liberally coated with Wink of Stella. Their wings, their bodies, they sparkle and shimmer. I don't know, let me see. Can you tell that that's all sparkly? I don't know if you can tell on camera. There we are. I can tell though, and I like it. It sparkles. What I then did was I think butterflies also should have a little bit of movement. So I didn't glue their wings down. I just did a little careful bend on the wings. So I think I'm going to put this one here. I was going to put the big one on, but he is really big. So let me take this one and I'll put him down here. Now you want to be careful because you don't want anything to go off the card. But it is certainly okay to have the butterflies at different angles, to go put them above or below the ribbon. Matter of fact, I think that makes a lot of dimension, a nice amount. So let us attach the butterflies with a little bit of all-purpose, multi-purpose glue. And this will glue through the ribbon, this nice mesh ribbon. It's got so many advantages. I can't tell you how happy I am that it is returning in the new catalog, because I think I'm halfway through my second roll. And I have another one sitting, just waiting to get started. Okay, so this really does give a lot of dimension to our card. I mean, it still flattens out for mailing. It's not that thick. This bow isn't that thick. But they just pop right back and it's just so pretty. And then let's put another little butterfly down here on the bottom. And this one I will do flat. Normally I have an envelope decorated to show you, but I do not for this one. I don't know what got into me. I forgot my envelope. Now it does need one more thing, and I remember why I kept out my in-color gems. No, sorry, in-color jewels. The 21 to 23 in-color jewels. So I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool, using the little putty end, and I am going to put some pretty little jewels on. And I'm using, they're all in the end colors, so I am using the Fresh Freesia. And three little jewels, just for a little extra interest. I hope you've enjoyed the card. Let me get those blends out of the way. I think this one turned out really pretty. So there's our card. We have the sample card and the one we made together. So I hope you enjoyed this bundle. I hope you've enjoyed the video. And I want to thank you for joining me. We'll see you again, and happy crafting. Bye-bye.